Hello. A few years ago was the first time I heard people talking about a right not to be offended. I think it was in the context of discussing hate speech. And the basic argument was your right to free speech should not trump someone else's right not to be offended. To be honest, I was shocked to hear an educated person say that. And then immediately after that, I was stunned how many people nodded along. Nobody said, wait, what? A right not to be offended? Now, in all fairness, I was so surprised I didn't say anything about it either. So maybe there were others having the same reaction that I was. Stunned silence. In any case, now that the shock is worn off, I think we should take this opportunity to have a look at this claim. Do people have a right not to be offended? If you want to skip the rest of this video, I'll save you some time. The answer is no. But since there are people out there saying this, I hope you'll stick around to hear why the answer is no, what's at stake, and how to respond to people making such a claim. And I'll try not to be too long-winded. First, I am not aware of any legal document that grants such a right. Look through the Magna Carta, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and you will find no such right. Free speech? Yeah, you'll find that, but no right not to be offended. As Justice Alito put it in the Slants case, the whole idea is offensive to a bedrock First Amendment principle. Speech may not be banned on the ground that it expresses ideas that offend. Of course, it's true that a community, like a private college or business, could establish a policy that says, you are not permitted to offend others while here. Such a policy could be legal, but not a good idea. Yes, it would stem some problematic language, but it would create a whole lot more problems. And this brings us to an essential part of the discussion. What do people even mean by offended? It sounds like we're saying that no one can have their feelings hurt, or no one may ever feel insulted. The Cambridge English Dictionary tells us to offend is to make someone upset or angry. Merriam-Webster says it this way: it is to cause difficulty, discomfort, or injury, or to cause dislike, anger, or vexation. Now, I don't always succeed, but I generally try not to hurt people's feelings, insult them, cause them anger, or upset them. That's just me trying to be nice. Of course, I don't think anyone wants to legislate against behaviors that might do such a thing. Do you really want to argue that we all have the right to be free from difficulty, discomfort, dislike, anger, or, God forbid, vexation? Is that a good idea? Is it self-evident, like rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? I don't think so. But if you still want folks to have that right, let's consider what that might look like. First, we would have to establish a threshold for when an offense had happened. At what point can we start punishing people for offending others? One option would be to say that everyone gets to decide for him or herself. If you claim to have been offended, then you have had your rights violated. Of course, it doesn't take much critical thought to see this is unworkable. There will be people with extreme levels of sensitivity and other people who like to play games. These folks would be able to silence anyone saying anything based on the claim they had been offended. And that's the rule, right? And if that's the rule, remember, I can do the same thing to you. This approach obviously couldn't work. Unfortunately, there are already certain groups doing this. Perhaps we should try the reasonable person standard. How would an average person respond to this circumstance? This can be a helpful standard at times, but I'm not sure it helps much with something as nebulous as offense. First of all, do we mean an average American, an average millennial, an average DEI administrator? Because those are three very different creatures. Moreover, who determines how that reasonable person would respond anyway? Who's the judge? As is very often the case, the person who most wants that kind of job is probably the last person you would want to hold such a position. Then we have to ask, does this even help people? keeping them from offensive words and ideas. In the same way that we coddle children, don't say something that might upset little Aaron, we have people treating adults, very often college students, in the same infantilizing way. That is not a good thing, for them or for society. There is one more response to this alleged right that we should discuss, and this one is the most important. A world in which no one was ever offended would not be a good one. Progress means change, and change requires criticism of the status quo. And guess what? Honest criticism can very easily offend. Think about it. All sorts of necessary and helpful communication can offend. When someone tells you that what you're doing isn't the best way to do things, or is simply wrong. When someone challenges your views on politics. When someone turns down your request for a date. In all these cases, the response is likely to be discomfort or offense. Could anyone desire to live in a world where we can never critique someone's ideas or actions? We wouldn't just be stopping mean and nasty words, but any speech suggesting a difference of opinion. There could be no progress as a society. And there are people who deserve to be offended when confronted with what they've done. And we all deserve to be offended at times when our actions or ideas are not what they should be. And if you're ever caused to be offended when you've done nothing wrong, well, that's life. Suck it up, Buttercup. One more thing before I go. The fact that a certain behavior should not be illegal does not mean that it's always fine. Going around offending other people willy-nilly is not nice. It's not smart. And you shouldn't do it. When I talk with people, I try to be civil and respectful. But I do have opinions. And speaking them out loud will invariably offend someone sooner or later. In my classroom, I tell my students that they are free to argue for any position they'd like. However, they must do so in a civil way, not insulting others. And that seems a good standard for a classroom policy. But a standard of not causing offense could not work in my classroom, as someone can always say someone else's opinion upset them. Is there a right not to be offended? At the risk of offending some people, I'll come out and say it. No, that's just stupid. Maybe saying it that way isn't nice, but it should most definitely be legal. Thank you.